south, you hit ice every time. You
Ah,
can
well,
circumnavigate on a flat Earth.
I guess that'll work. I don't like cold anyway. So, out of curiosity, what would you let me take this into the theoretical. What would happen if
Okay.
I don't know? I started walking and walked all the way up into Canada, and let's say I hit the Antarctic at the theoretical pole. What's after that?
Well, the North Pole is in the center. Antarctica is basically like an outer circle. It's like all of South, all of magnetic South is a big circle around. It's basically like a giant watch battery. The North polarity is in the center, and that's what all compasses are attracted to. And the southern is on, the outer ring. So, you can navigate the same way on a flat Earth map as you can on a globe map, just due to that simple fact that north is in the center. But you can only go so far north. And you want to go visit the South Pole to prove me wrong, take a compass with you. Because when you go to that pole and where it says you're at the South Pole, walk past it, and I guarantee you the compass is still going to be pointing in the same direction. And if you have to hold a compass flat for it to work, and it's like, and you're on the bottom of a ball and it's supposed to be pointing north. How is that even possible? It would have the compass would be pointing down to the ground. You can use a gyroscopical compass, and it does not happen. It pulls, it's a flat magnetic pole from south and north.
Yeah, yeah. They actually say that those poles are gonna reverse here before too long. That should be interesting. It's happened
Yeah,
before.
that's physically impossible unless they switch. Like basically, Earth is like a giant electrolyte battery. Like the salt water, the seawater is like the electrolyte solution. I would say that there's in the North Pole there's probably a bunch of copper, and then so it's maybe 10 on the outer ring. That's all hypothetical because I can't go prove it, but I know how a battery works. And and this is what basically Tesla left a lot of hints and stuff, and I've used Tesla a lot because he disproved relativity, he disproves gravity, and gravity is not the force from a spinning ball pulling down something, because one part would have centripetal force and the other part would have centrifugal force. I mean, it's just impossible. Gravity is from the electromagnetic field of the giant battery, and charged particles are what create a down, and the reason objects fall is because of density, and that's the reason why objects fall and they hit water. They're not being pulled down anymore. They were never being pulled down. They were being basically pushed from above by the air. You can take a slinky and hold it out in front of you, and let it sit at rest and let it, hang down at a 90-degree angle. And if you drop it, I'm not sure, you can literally watch. The bottom will not move until it's pushed down by the very top. Like there is no separate force. There would be two forces, the slinky constricting and then gravity pulling it down, and it would be simultaneous. But instead, like the bottom hovers in place until the top of the slinky hits it. And, that right there disproves gravity as a result of a spinning sphere with a 2,400-mile circumference.
Interesting. I'm thinking about this a little bit. The physics involved, different things. What about the Northern Lights and stuff further north? Would that be tied to the?
It's electromagnetic. I mean, it's just electromagnetic interference from the ether. It's the North Pole is where the energy is. Early depictions they used to be like a giant tree there. Like even the Bible mentions a tree that could be seen from anywhere on Earth. And how is that possible on the globe? But, and then there's also these other things where I've been getting into, like old, this might sound a little crazy, but there's old, giant mountains, stuff like that are actually like old giant tree stumps. And they have like hexagonal columns in them that represent, that are basically made up like plant matter. And it's impossible for that to occur from lava flows, which is their explanation. And, so I think, and there's also the things that they say that basically the trees were the antenna for the positive frequency. Like every living thing on the planet operates between 6, 7, and 8 hertz. And there's basically like the low frequency is basically like the frequency of life, the frequency of creation that everything is made out of and everything adheres to. And it's fractals. It all has symmetrical patterns. Everything is done in fractals, and some of these things, like these giant like Devil's Mountain for one. You know, it's a gigantic tree stump. You know, and there was one of them where they did like a diameter, like the base to height ratio, and they said that the tree would have been at like 3,000 miles high. And you know, you look at the Grand Canyon. You know, the Bible does talk about there was giants that came down and whatever they did, but you know, you look at Grand Canyon, and there's not one sign of water erosion on the walls. It's a gigantic rock quarry where it's basically been stripped and gutted. There's giant gouge marks that you can see from giant high RPM saws up on the rock. You just go look up some pictures of Grand Canyon and zoom in and really look at that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happened.
As a red-blooded true American that's got a very healthy beard going on this winter, I remember from first grade exactly how that Grand Canyon was made. Why, that was when Paul Bunyan's ox, Blue, took off.
Exactly.
Remember that, man?
You know, and there's probably more. I don't remember that from the story, but there's probably more truth to that than history. I mean, who else was going around cutting down these giant trees?
All right. Well, there's a lot of things that we just don't know about. I think there are a lot of things in civilization has actually been forgotten about, and there's archaeological truths to many of these mysteries. I was, I think it was last week. I touched on the Nephilim and a lot of the archaeological proofs on these giants, which, you know, depending on whose theory you believe or archaeological, a lot of people believe that they were from the verses where the fallen angels, took the daughters of man.
That's what I agree with.
Yeah, and then some people some people believe that the fallen angels were spiritual. Some people believe the fallen angels might have been extraterrestrial in nature, but one way or the other, the archaeological, there is proof that there was such a thing.
Oh, absolutely. Elongated skulls, different blood types. You know, anyone that has a rhesus negative blood type is thought to be a descendant of a Nephilim, but that could also be disinformation because, you know, at the time of the flood, when, you know, Noah survived, they said no woman was fit. So, you know, I'm sure that a new type of woman was introduced to repopulate the earth because last time it failed. So, you know, so there was a gene boost on both sides. So I don't necessarily agree that all negative blood types are descendants of Nephilim, but, you know, there's definitely obvious evidence that of both incursions.
Well, this is just speculative here, but you talk about the elongated skulls, and I've read some of the articles, which strangely enough, a lot of that evidence disappears, but you can find old newspaper articles where, you know, they had them out on display and whatnot. But the South Americans, the Mayans and the Incas. There's a lot of neat stuff that they found with them. Like, I think one group actually didn't they bind their skulls to purposely elongate them, and it makes you wonder if maybe they were mimicking something that, you know, their ancestors.
Right. Yeah, that's what it was. Like, and a lot of archaeologists would try to use that to elongate the skulls, as saying that they were doing this to themselves, but they weren't, because the evidence is totally, like, the skulls that were elongated were not the result of that, and because the ones that were the result of that are totally different, and there's totally, you know, they're not even comparable. I mean, there's obvious evidence of when they intentionally do that and shape the head. You know, it's like just where the cracks in the skull are or whatever. Like, they're totally different, and it's a different skull.
Absolutely. Here's one of my new fascination things I've been researching with, and maybe there is something to that. The North Pole and a lot of power there. A lot of people believe that the Nazis, the Nazis were highly into the occult. I don't even think that's in the realm of conspiracy. I think that's mainstream, that everybody is aware of that. But they were in on it since the beginning too. Like, the whole World War II, like, it was all controlled opposition. Like, the leaders of all the countries are in the same club, and they were communicating, and it was all planned out beforehand. Have you ever heard
just a show?
Have you ever heard the theory that some people believe that the Hollow Earth theory?
Yeah, I have looked into Hollow Earth, and, you know, it's the thing about it for me is it just doesn't like, for one, the lack of the proof, and for two, I mean, my compass doesn't point. Like the southern polarity is not coming from underneath us; it's coming from an outer ring away from us. Like the north is in the center, and then the south is in the back, and that could not be possible on hollow Earth.
Roger. I think I'm going to call it theoretical, but conventional science, I believe, would say that stems from the iron core in the Earth, right?
Right. They say that we have a molten magnetic core of nickel and iron, but according to physics, the Curie temperature, the temperature at which metals lose magnetic properties, is the temperature of the core is several times above the Curie temperature for copper and nickel. So defined magnetic poles coming from a molten iron nickel core above the Curie temperature is absolutely impossible. Like, it would be, with the applied magnetic field present, it would be randomness. Like, you would get random compass readings everywhere as all this, magnetic north and south energy sloshing through this liquid core. They theorize the core temperature based on the melting point of iron. No one's ever dug deeper than 8 miles. No one can verify. Everything about the core is theoretical because they can't prove it.
I love this flat Earth theory. It's like it's almost like it's almost like the unified theory in physics. This is almost like the conspiracy that ties all conspiracies together. I mean,
it really is. And that's why I spent once I found out, I've literally spent the last year researching about 16 hours a day. When I first started into it, I couldn't eat or sleep. It was like a machine, and there's just so much information to go through to be able to pick apart the debates and actually know who's lying and to see who's lying and stuff like that. There's so much information, and I feel like I've been cramming for a test for the past year, and I know a lot of people do like to call it flat Earth theory, but there's so much evidence and proof that's undisputable. It's way beyond a theory.
Well, we
can
can call it
gravity and relativity are theories.
Yeah, we can call it the round Earth theory as well.
That's never been proven.
There you go. I think I highly encourage you, man, to write yourself an ebook and pop that thing on Amazon. There's a lot of people that are self-published now. That's another thing.
As I'm kind of getting and progressing to where I am, I'm starting to realize that I need to kind of branch out and do more things. Like, what I've just been doing is researching and going into groups and debating, and trying to wake people on Facebook. I think since I've taken the time and learned all this stuff, and I think that I need to do something with it better. So yeah, I agree.
You definitely live in a wonderful area to do that. Take yourself your laptop, go on over to the Long Branch, drink you some of that coffee all day, just type away. And I don't know, I'm not going to give away your location to our listeners, but I know where you live, and it's a very academic, rich environment.
Well, I'm actually about 16 miles east of there now.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah, you know where I'm at.
Roger. Oh, well, heck, what else can you tell us? I'm curious. I don't even know all the right questions to ask.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of there's no really. You just gotta kind of jump in the deep end. I mean, there's no way to ease into this, I guess. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. There's so many different things that, I mean, one of the biggest things for me, that was one of the biggest selling points for me, was Polaris. They say that our seasons require a 23.4 degree yearly axial tilt. And if you look at Polaris, which is the pole star, and it's always above the North Pole. The Nazis got the swastika from ancient civilizations because it was a representation of the center of existence, because it basically shows how the Big Dipper spins around it. All 4 seasons, it starts off 90 degrees.
Roger, and that's been
completes it throughout an entire year, and there's not even hardly a 1 degree variation. And in our axial tilt. And so right there,